Look at what the world has become. In such a short period of time, we have witnessed society turn into something so unrecognizable. What does this mean? And why is this happening? Well, in order to answer this question of what is happening, we must know where we are. And in order to really know where we are, it's crucial to understand there is no problem here. This is all divinely orchestrated. The problem isn't the government. The problem isn't the people. The problem isn't the culture. The problem isn't the education. The problem isn't religion. The problem isn't the lack of connection with our heritage. The problem isn't race. The problem isn't the economy. The problem isn't tyranny. In fact, there is no real problem. We may think this experience is difficult because one or more elements of this world has been abused, poisoned, or hidden away. We hear things like, if only the elite could stop pulling the strings, things would get better. If only people knew there was a God or Savior, the world would be a greater place. If people would just reconnect with nature, everything would be solved. Or if only we could replace this system with another system, all would be harmonious. But the suffering and confusion in this realm is not the result of scarcity of a particular belief, of knowledge, or of decent societal structure. The pain and conflict in this realm does not stem from an ignorance of some particular truth that could be conveyed to the masses, but rather all of this is the result of a necessary process, a purgatorial process. This is a purgatorial process, and in this video, we shall take another look at the realm we're in. Some call it a flat plane, some call it a prison or a school, but the truth of the matter is, we're in purgatory. Limited mortal logic and reason has attempted to connect various dots to understand reality and its operations, but the truth can only be found in a poetic mindset. Currently, in this information age, we're presented with a plethora of informational rabbit holes to get lost in, to explore. But just like Alice, who gets lost in Wonderland, a place which isn't so wonderful after all, we too can become preoccupied and ultimately disoriented by the streams of thought all around us which claim full authenticity and correctness, all while leading us further and further into delusions and illusions. Therefore, we must look behind the veil. Only then can we return to the real world and verify that this experience we are going through is quite simple. It is stranger than fiction and more profound than any popularized spiritual teaching has conveyed. Earth is an anagram, a rearrangement of the word heart. This is because we are in a simulation of consciousness which reflects what is not of the heart. When the heart is forgotten about, it projects a shadow reality meant to facilitate purging. This shadow reality is designed to catch the various purges which result from duality. Duality, in the context I speak of, is the tug of war between two opposites which creates tension. The heart does not know of good versus evil, of heaven versus hell. It only knows a singular beauty, ease, a singular magic. This is paradise, a state of being as much as it is an actual environment. During this purgatorial process, the macrocosmic heart, what we know to be the center or the North Pole, feeds energy into the above and below in order to crash down all tension that the universal mind can come up with within the paradigm of duality. This tension is caught on the magnetic field. We live on a magnetic field. It is a net. The tension that is exhibited on the field, everything from nature's predatory ways to society's endless conflicts and arguments, is the result of tension being caught, trapped on the net of magnetics, in order to purify the universal mind and thus ourselves. What is trapped is designed to be dissolved. True alchemy means going from lead to gold. To dive deeper into the authenticity of our being means we need to release what weighs down the heart by merging the light and dark, becoming gray magicians in the process. The dramas that unfold in this reality are all the result of purging duality, the plus and the minus, the this and the that. This is why a magnetic field has a positive and a negative charge. And what do you know? These opposites attract when it comes to magnets. Paradise is found when these opposites conjoin, as both archetypes contain qualities which, when merged, erect a divinity outside of the bounds of limitation and definition, beyond good and evil, beyond heaven and hell. In fact, this concept of heaven and hell has only been able to sustain itself while we ourselves are split from the heart, separating the oneness into the two. This was exemplified in the movie The Dark Crystal, in which two halves of the same whole finally merge together and become the original divine being. Before they merge together, however, it seems as if they are opposite, as if they are completely distinct in essence, in character, in being. It is the crucial time to understand this truth as our purges accelerate. We can call this the end times or the Great Awakening. It doesn't really matter. It is clear that what's being reflected on the outside is increasingly binary, robotic, lifeless, and out of touch with anything true, eternal, and heartfelt. Time is the great revealer, and as this purgatorial process continues, we are revealed what is and what isn't, what is true and what is false, within our own lives and in the world at large. This is not to say enjoyment evades us in every single moment in such a construct. There is much to experience and praise within this purgatorial system, but always there remains an underbelly of incompleteness, because that is what we are going through. We are wading through the incomplete portions of consciousness that need to be dealt with in order to solidify what is whole once again. The center of this plane is indeed the center of ourselves, Hyperborea, also known as the Garden of Eden, the place of peace, Shambhala, land of the living fire. This space consists of 4 continents and 4 rivers with a central axis. Our own hearts contain 4 valves and 4 chambers. The heart is the emerald ray. Like the aurora, which pours from this space, is primarily emerald green. This is the heart of Tafiti. This is Sleeping Beauty. This is the Emerald City. To access paradise, it is not an act of the will. Purgatory is designed to lead the living souls through our own shadows using real-time, lifelike metaphors and dramas. And like Dante wrote of Mount Purgatorio, the purging process leads inevitably to the earthly paradise. The earthly paradise, or Garden of Eden, sits on top the various levels of purgatory. When the process completes, the heart reopens, paradise reopens. The process of purgatory is a cleansing process, but to cleanse, we must walk through the flames of ourselves. In my video, The Purgatorial Dumping Ground, we spoke of this truth and compared the bird's eye view of purgatory with our own realm. The center of the bullseye is the North Pole, is the heart, is the earthly paradise. I have received many comments like, "I'm sick of this place, let's go north," and "Why can't we buy a boat and find paradise?" We can't do that because the North Pole is not a physical destination. We must think outside of our earthly senses to know what the center is. Hyperborea is found neither by land nor by sea. The external center is simply a placeholder for the inner energies which align to such a paradise. We are in a holographic simulation of consciousness that needs to be journeyed through in order to unload the tension duality brings so the heart can remember its own vitality and magic. This magic, when unlocked only after the purging is over, shall unlock the 0 point in full, transporting all living souls, all eternal consciousness back to the land of eternal twilight, where there is no night or day, where there is no harm, where there is no split between conscious and unconscious, true and false. The universal mind is the name I give to the bank of possibilities which can manifest into experience and into consciousness. Within the universal mind, there are infinite possibilities. But this means there are possibilities of horror and unpleasantries. So how would the universal mind, which we are all connected to, refine itself? How would it do this? Well, it would have to set up a construct, a matrix, which can be utilized to unload some possibilities through playing them out on the world stage and in our own lives and in the personifications of consciousness that we know to be soulless beings or non-player characters. Most beings are not going through this purgatorial process, and that is quite clear. The concept of non-player characters has been co-opted, but my work on this topic has always been pointing to why won't people wake up? People aren't waking up to the truth of their being, of their divinity, because most are personifications of duality consciousness that need to be rendered in order for the universal mind to refine itself. One of the biggest questions when it comes to awakening is, why won't humanity wake up? It's because to wake up, one must be purging. One must be a vehicle for the cleansing of the universal mind. And in order to purge, one must be a living soul or a game player in this construct with an inner space to tap into. Instead of dogma, the living soul's truth is, I am God. Non-player characters are necessary in order to purge. In a dream at night, our mind projects various situations and beings in order to process our psyches. We would never say that the characters in our dreams are eternal or are independent. in awareness, but that doesn't mean they are worthless. Far from it. Without the various personified reflections and projections we experience in this matrix, in the form of human beings, the universal mind would be unable to piece itself together. Just like without the characters in our dreams to guide us and challenge us along the way, the psyche isn't able to effectively process itself. The world is getting more and more Orwellian, tyrannical, and cold, and this is coinciding with very profound realizations of self, which the living souls have been experiencing. The pressure of purgatory is the greatest catalyst for all of our illusion and delusion to be dissolved. It is not easy and oftentimes uncomfortable. When we see the world with all of its incompleteness, we may think, how could something or someone be so heartless, lifeless, manipulative? The answer is, we don't see what we think we see. We see what we are not in this realm. What pains us in this world instills a remembrance of a wholeness that has been forgotten in order to facilitate the purging of this universal mind. The purgatorial process requires that we lose ourselves to our own purges. The various spiritual traditions of this world typically treat suffering as a symptom of an unenlightened being, or one who has fallen into sin. But what if the sin, or the suffering we experience, comes from the shedding of duality, which has been taken on for the sake of reigniting paradise and strengthening the heart? This makes every bit of suffering noble. We must not get lost in surface-level interpretation if we are to see things for what they are. Taking a step back from the noise, from the screams and the shouts, it's clear that the binary consciousness, which has masked itself for so long, is increasingly revealing itself for what it truly is. Remember, time is the great revealer. Medical doctors tend to focus on symptoms and not the root cause of the symptoms. Likewise, we can dupe ourselves into focusing on the results of purging. The universe operates within many paradoxes. It is a paradox that the more confusing the world stage appears, the more lifeless reality gets in its societal manifestations, the more awakened the living soul becomes. An awakening can only take place if one has been sleeping. Our truest selves have remained unseen, but glimpsed as we wander through the mazes of our own minds. The divine creates all scenarios for one reason only: expansion. Expansion remains the purpose of all illusions and all puzzles which this matrix presents. As within, so without. Purgatory offers us the ability to make mistakes. A mistake is a mistake. Take one, take two, take three. It's all good. When we fall and ache and cry and hurt, this exhibits the heart's need to be seen, to be loved, to be known, to be opened. And this power of true love is not simply the cookie-cutter love that's been displayed in movies or in our culture, which still relies on the dualities of this and that, but rather true love is a force so expansive, so strong and vital, so magical that it obliterates what is false and nurtures what was always true, untainted, and eternal. Thank you for watching. Keep up the great work.
your eyes closed, stretching at the exposed, beyond the marble of the moon's eyes. Caterpillar crawl cry, Sophia whispers in the darkness, melt away the heartless, beneath the pool of the AI, in front of borealis starshine. So you think you're a tough guy, maybe that's a misapply. So keep it cool, keep it purified, get to the center of the bullseye. Sophia whispers in the darkness, melt away the heartless. So keep it cool, eyes on the prize, center of the bullseye. 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 Center of the bullseye.
A chicken jolly chew at your back. Slices in, don't give me more of that.
I'm taking Tolly like a little log. The birds are calling me to sing along.
A chicken jolly with your eyes closed,
Stretching at the exposed, behind the marble of the moon's eyes. Caterpillar crawl cries. So you think you're a tough guy, maybe that's a misapply. So keep it cool, keep it purified, get to the center of the bullseye. Sophia whispers in the darkness, melt away the heartless. So keep it cool, eyes on the prize, center of the bullseye. Center of the bullseye.
that love in the shade. Baby, looking so fine, holiday. Leather
center of the bullseye.
There is a reset happening, and it is being advertised as something to fear. And it's no wonder why many feel this way. If we pay attention to the unfolding events and agendas in this world, we see a deteriorating society and culture. But if we pay attention to the unfoldment that is occurring from within, we see not deterioration, but a call to elevate. Although it can seem paradoxical and confusing, what is occurring is the perfect recipe for awakening. When we speak of the physical world and its happenings, we must know first and foremost that it is all manifested from an unseen world. Even in our own lives, all moments have originated first as intangible energy in the unseen, becoming the seen. Spirit and matter are endlessly connected, and in this ascensional process, this awakening, there is no exception. Spirit uses matter as a vessel for cleansing. We incarnated in these avatars in order to cleanse ourselves and thus cleanse spirit. It is a joint process with no hierarchies involved. What a time of great change and dramatic transformation we are in. It may seem a bit difficult, but the ultimate result of this transformation is liberation. We are being called to restore our own sense and feelings of truth, health, beauty, strength, connection, peace, sovereignty, and freedom. In order to achieve this restoration, it has been necessary to pull the rug from under our feet, to test us using hard experiences to synchronistically guide us back into the actuality of our being. This deterioration of society and culture is not a mistake in the eyes of the divine, but pure perfection. It is crucial to go through this shift so our own potential can be awakened. We must let go of the attachment and fear and anxiety that lead to the reality we see before us. The harsh reality we have been witnessing dwindles in importance the more we place importance on the beautiful reality within that cannot dwindle, but can only expand as long as we are giving it permission. The collective turmoil being experienced is increasing alongside the shedding of falsehood that we have all known and experimented with. Examples of the false would be false personas and personalities, states of perception and perspective rooted in lack, judgment of self and others as being evil, a hurried, anxious, unsafe sense of being. All of this is false. How we interact with each other, what is deemed correct and incorrect, this is all false. Forgetfulness leads to all suffering. To remember, it takes truly intending to remember, penetrating down to the core of one's being to uncover energies previously hidden. These energies can only come forth when we are ready to confront the deeper truths within. The fear-based programs which circulate in this matrix are representative of our own inner fears. Our fears come to the surface, come to life for purging and thus releasing the further the reset of this realm progresses. It is perfect. It may not be pleasant in all moments, but it is perfect. Trusting in the direction of creation is only possible if we are trusting in our own creativity. Self-doubt has infested our psyches, causing a further forgetfulness of our inherent creative gift of creation, of manifestation. This gift is the power of gods and goddesses beyond mere mortal perception, and this gift opens itself in the present moment only. The present of the present moment can only be opened if we are harmonizing with the moment. And that may sound too simple, but it is truly what is simple that is most freeing, most truthful. And perhaps to get to this simplicity, it is required that we slow things down. Slowing things down leads to clarity, slowing down our own consciousness, not in vitality, but in processing, leads to clarity. The constant stimulation that this world offers us can overburden our attention, and our attention is so important. It is our currency. We currently see the reality that our attention places focus on. This simple truth can only be known as much as it is practiced and felt. Slowing everything down in meditation, in reflection, taking routine stock of the true self and its needs is a great way to align with what truly matters. Another truth that is revealing itself is that there is no destination. This may seem like a contradiction when it comes to ascension, but arriving back to our spiritual homeland requires that we know ourselves to always be there. The heart space is aurora light inside, which connects back home to Hyperborea. This is a land of play and fun and peace and sacredness and wellness. Those realities exist inside of us right now, in this present moment. To access Hyperborea requires accessing it right now, without the need for an external or future result, without the attachment to a future event. The event is occurring right this moment, and there is only ever one moment, constantly shifting and changing. Synchronicity replaces time as we shift more and more into our true state of being. So let us follow synchronicity. As living souls, we only ever experience realities and constructs to heighten our awareness of the all, to go deeper into the magic of the all, and to strengthen the universe with more true love. It should be clear by now that we are not simply in a mundane, mechanistic world. The stories and theories and postulates about the past and about our origins are untrue. We are not bound by lineage or race or models of social structure or culture. We reside outside of space and time, truly outside of anything tainted, in perfected bodies, in perfected consciousness. The more we remember this, the closer we get to this truth and to this reality. Earth being a purgatory to facilitate this elevation allows us to undergo this shift while being grounded in physical reality. Our bodies are antennas for the soul. I am not speaking any of these words to ignore the fact that there have been tangles that need untangling. This is a process of merging all dualities inside of us, and it can feel messy. The wars waged outside of us are reflected to remind us of the war inside that can be won. But this war can only be won through calling a truce and letting the light and dark merge. The masks that the soulless consciousness wears is a reminder of the masks we have all been wearing throughout this journey. We may feel a crossroads right now. Are we going to keep on the mask because it makes others feel better, because it's the more compliant thing to do? Or is it time that we shed all illusions and delusions, inflicted and self-made, seeking only what is immortal and nurturing? It is very commendable to know yourself in a world that wishes to tell you that you are but a cog in a machine. Truly harmonizing with the breath, body, mind, and soul, actually acknowledging what heals, allows us to connect with what is both seen and unseen in a way that all moments expand rather than contract. We must truly implement energetic coherence in ourselves to achieve the Christ-like divine consciousness, which we know to exist and which many texts tells us is reserved for the enlightened. Coherence is the state of forming a unified whole. The opposite of this state would be brokenness or separation from the true self. When we are coherent in vibration, in thought, word, action, and in presence, we solidify an energy that is controlled and clear in itself. This energy extraction matrix we've been in displays an uncontrolled, confused, murky energy which hides itself in front of a controlled and clear persona. We are greater than this brokenness, and we do not need to emulate it. In fact, we can use the reflections in the outer as reasons, as inspiration to fully be coherent. Therefore, it's wise to maintain the intention of unifying everything that you are, so nothing is uncontrolled, confused, and murky. Spirituality, for the most part, has been based on the worship of externalized forces of divinity. However, the beckoning light of the Hyperborean Golden Age eradicates this paradigm, replacing it with an eternal knowing that more expansive states of consciousness may only reveal themselves when the uncontrolled waters of ourselves still. And yet, without action, no expansion can occur. But the question is, what action should one take? This question can only be answered through the intuition. Anytime we follow the actions stemming from our mind's reactivity or delusion, we end up in a reality worse in quality than we intended. This is why it is so crucial to understand our own reasons for doing what we do. We must be aware of cause and effect. This is called being mindful. Mindfulness speaks to simplicity. Only when we can accept that at the core, our desires and reasons for everything are really simple, only then can we enter true mindfulness, mindful awareness. If we are addicted to the complexity, then we can never find true mindfulness, true awareness. Our desires are very simple at the core. We desire love, to be loved, to experience love. We desire relaxation, exploration. We desire vitality, vibrance, and a sense of fun. We desire to go home, to the heart space. We desire true connection. We desire actions that lead to further healing and rejuvenation. Buddhists say that desire is the root of all suffering. This is absolutely true when it comes to the worldly, to carnal desire and obsession. It is true when it comes to a specific desired outcome. When we desire what is temporary, we suffer. When we desire what cannot be had, we suffer. When we desire what is false and illusory, we suffer. What I am speaking of is a desire to merge with creation through remembrance that love is all there truly is. The desire to love and to be loved, therefore, cannot create suffering when the desire is paired with a presence which speaks to our eternal nature. Being in a veil of illusion requires discernment for the being who does not want to get lost in the sauce of this reality. This veil of illusion tempts us, haunts us, confronts us, and inspires us for the sake of remembrance. The veil pushes us to be the greatest versions of ourselves through displaying the many inversions of ourselves. When we see a sick reality, we may choose health and wellness outside of the bounds of illusion, which makes us ill. When we see a world of anxiety, we may choose ease. The choice always exists, but if we allow ourselves to absorb the world's false images and narratives, we may think there is no choice but fear and misery. Beyond fear and misery, beyond good and evil, there is a wellspring of warmth, a center point. This is the heart space, the unity that resides within, expressing itself without, under the guise of separation. We oppose ourselves and the world so much because we think we have to. We have rarely given ourselves permission to just let paradise synchronistically weave itself together. So let us give ourselves this sacred permission. We can. It's possible. We may think there is no other choice but to oppose and resist a world that seems to want to hurt us. Discernment leads to knowing what is and what isn't. So only with discernment can we realize all opposition is rooted in forgetfulness. The harsh teacher of purgatory is not harsh for the sake of just being harsh. All that is occurring individually and collectively is necessary. It's how Sophia is processing herself. It's how we refine ourselves. It's how the universal mind further refines itself. The strange, sometimes terrifying events occurring on Earth are meant to let all of this be known to the living souls. If all of this isn't readily apparent, I implore you to look within and really let yourself open up to what is true. On one hand, our true selves are already immovably perfect. On the other hand, we must remember our true selves to move into that immovable perfection. When we do not remember or choose to forget, we suffer. The topic of ascension is often paired with concepts of aliens and light beings and greater dimensions. And while these concepts could be inspiring, there is no need to acknowledge or believe in any of this. It all boils down to consciousness, to the state of being. Am I elevating and deepening in my understanding of self? Am I living inspired? Am I living unified in myself? Do I trust creation? Do I know who I am and how I operate? Ascension means yes to these questions. A living soul is a child deep down who just wishes to play. We have been playing the game of duality, and now we wish to play a different game. The phrase inner child may evoke the judgment of immaturity, but what I am pointing to is innocence. Innocence is a state achieved only when all components of ourselves are clear to ourselves. When nothing is hidden in the shadows, buried in the dirt, or masked by the fog, innocence arises. But first we must confront. We are being given this period to really assess what prevents innocence. What needs to be released, whether it be a perception, an action, or a relationship, to come back to greater awareness of this innate innocence. Keep up the great work, everyone. The journey continues. Let's keep doing this. Thank you.
Sophia.